just sell small rectangular objects. They're called books.
Welcome to Unlocking Great Books. We got a great show today, Carl.
What is this, episode 59?
Episode 59.
Yeah, so this is a great one.
We're going to do fiction, show and tell.
Fiction, show and tell. Now, the motivation for this, right?
Yes.
Well, first of all, we always try and do some fiction every series.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
Not enough. But the motivation for this was an article we both read in the New York Times that said men in particular are just reading much less fiction than before.
Yeah.
So
not only is everyone reading less than before, this is calling out, us.
Well, the other thing, there was a New York Times article, not a New Yorker article, and it made a really good point, which is to the extent that men read, they read what they call instrumental books.
Yes.
And we do that.
Yes.
That's the whole podcast.
Functional reading.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How do we improve our productivity, our mental health?
Yeah. How many people do you meet who are like, I need to read to learn, to get better?
Exactly. Well, that's good. And
all the time. Yeah, great.
Except you're assuming that reading to learn and get better can't be done by reading fiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fundamental flaw.
Yeah.
Fundamental flaw. Yeah. So we kind of pondered that, didn't we, I suppose? Yeah. And the premise of today's show is we kind of gathered around the question, why do we read what we read?
Yeah.
And in terms of fiction.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And you're going to do a really good job thinking about what are the themes, and I'm going to talk about what are the purposes.
Yeah.
And I found this great quote from Aldous Huxley, which I love. It says, good art possesses a kind of super truth.
Ooh.
And that's kind of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Really good fiction kind of has a special sort of insight and truth and verisimilitude, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to talk about books that just kick my ass.
You're talking about a little bit of instrumentalism there, aren't you, really?
Yes, yeah.
Whereas I would say I'm maybe thinking more experiential.
Yes. Well, again, and
it's good.
Yeah. No right answers, right?
No, that's the point.
Exactly, right. Like we read for lots of different reasons, lots of different purposes. We just want you to read. One of the things I'm going to talk about is I do use reading. I use fiction in an instrumental way to do non-instrumental things.
Yes.
But I really like this idea that for me, when I think about delineating, how do I read, I'm a huge believer that art demands something from us, whereas entertainment doesn't.
Yeah,
and there are times when I have to read for entertainment, like when my brain's just done, and I just need to be entertained. I don't need the book to demand anything from me. Yeah, and then there are other books which demand almost everything.
We'll get into it in a second, but there is a beauty around reading is that you are there. You have to read. Yes. There's a work. You're putting effort in here, and there's a reward, which I think is really interesting to explore, isn't it? Rather than just sitting there and getting it.
Which is passive entertainment, like a movie or
so this is active entertainment. This is fiction. Yeah. This is, we're not very inventive fiction show and tell. We thought we'll go back to school. But let's dive into a large pile of books. Asterisks. Not trigger warning, is it? It's an asterisk. We will cover a lot of books in this episode, so don't stress about stopping and writing them down. Yeah. I'll give you a list.
Sounds great.
So let's go.
Books. I need my books.
Today we have fiction show and tell.
I'm so looking forward to this. How are you doing?
I'm great. This is a real free range episode. We kind of had the pang to do fiction. Now we've been here before, haven't we? And kind of had this learning that it's very, very hard to talk in depth about one fiction book.
Absolutely, without
blowing it.
Exactly. So, lots of spoiler alerts.
So we thought we'd have a bit of fun today and kick around some fiction that we like reading. But also why, I think, is probably more important, isn't it?
Okay, so before we tell us, what are the books you want to talk about today? You've got a bit of a list.
I've got a bit of a list, but I'm going to anchor around a book called The Thursday Murder Club, which is a massive book, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. Okay. The second one is The Bourne Identity.
Oh, yes.
So Robert Ludlum. I might throw The Hunt for Red October in there as well.
I'm spotting a theme here.
Yeah, but there are some other things that I want to dance around, some other books. But I've kind of thought of this in themes.
Good.
Why have these books appeared on my radar? Why do I read them?
I like it.
So I've kind of got two or three themes to explore. What have you got?
Well, I did it a different way. I love the thematic approach. I thought about what does fiction do for me? And so I've chosen 3 books that I think demark a spectrum of how I deal with literature, right?
Right.
Fiction.
I can't wait to hear how you deal with choosing books.
So at one end, we've got I've got an Orphan X book by a guy called Gregg Hurwitz called Nemesis, right?
Yes.
And then kind of in the middle position, I'll talk about all of this in a minute, I've got Mick Herron's Slow Horses.
Yep. Beauty.
And then at the other end, I've got Richard Flanagan's The Narrow Road to the Deep North.
Okay.
And I think those books are emblematic of how I use fiction in my life.
Yeah, good.
Right, okay.
Good. Okay, this is good.
Okay, so why don't we kick off with the first of your themes?
Yeah, so my theme, and it's probably not too dissimilar to the way you've looked at it. I, in more recent times, I've started to get back on this books to share with others thing.
Right.
So when you hear people who have read lots and lots, like books that are read quite widely, and I haven't read it, I'm kind of like, I'm really interested to read it, to share, and particularly people close to me. So the first book is The Thursday Murder Club. Now, this is a massive, sold 1 million in 6 months.
Yeah,
it's huge, and it's becoming a movie's coming out, which is going to be amazing.
Or not.
Well, no. I think
cast looks amazing.
So they're on to a good start.
So tell us the premise of The Thursday Murder
Club. So
the
premise of so it's written by Richard Osman. He's a comedian, and it's centered around an old folks' home, and this motley crew of characters in the home, and it's the characters that make the book.
Right.
So there's kind of 4 main characters, and they have this thing they gather on Thursdays to kind of solve unsolved crimes. And it's because one of them was
like cold case crimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of them was a ex-MI6 agent. But you don't find all this out very early in the story. So the characters start building, and you kind of got you've got I'm trying to remember this is a good challenge. Elizabeth, Joyce, Abraham, and Ron are kind of the 4 central characters. But there's also some other very and when you hear Richard Osman talk about how he wrote the book, you can see why, because he's hilarious. Like, he's a big TV guy.
Right.
But the reason why I read this book is because my wife read the book.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, she reads mainly reads fiction.
Right.
So I was kind of like, I need to read stuff that she's reading.
And then you can talk about it.
Then we can talk about
exactly.
it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And literally in the last week, we have just done something which I didn't even think about as an experience. But when I mentioned we went down on a holiday, so we decided to listen to the second audiobook together. She's already read the book, so we listened to the second audiobook, 1 headphone each.
Oh, wow.
And we've only just finished it this week, so we had to find time to stop, go for a walk, listen to the book together. Very cool, very, very cool. So and the story of her getting the book, and this is the whole pass it on thing, which I really love, is she got the book from her work colleague, just left on her desk. Yeah. Like, her work colleague just left it on her desk, said, have a read.
Wow. And
totally loved it. Yeah. And of course, obviously lots of other people love it too. But
that is so cool. So, that is a great story. So what I've done is, as I said, I've demarked this continuum of what literature does to me.
Yes.
Literature, fiction. And at the most frivolous end, we got the Gregg Hurwitz book, which is the Orphan X series. Mm-hmm. And these are books for me which are palate cleansers. And I think I mentioned quite clearly. So here's the latest one in the Orphan X series. It's called Nemesis.
Right.
There's any number of these books. It's about a guy who was a secret assassin in some black ops program for the US government. He was obviously pulled out of an orphanage. It's called Orphan X. He now is using his powers of evil for good. He's the nowhere man. And it's a great story.
Oh, good.
They're great stories. But what they are is they are really easy to read.
Yeah.
They don't demand much of me, and I love them.
Yeah.
Right? And I buy them as soon as they come out. I think we're up to 10.
Okay, good.
And I think I mentioned when we talked about Veblen, right? Veblen was great and important, but was a hard read.
Yes.
And when I finished Veblen, I bought the latest Hurwitz book and read it on the aeroplane, and and finished it the next day, and it was just beautiful. It was candy floss.
Yes.
And it's better written than that.
Yeah.
Like it's well written. Yeah. So good characters.
Your palate cleansing is not degrading the book.
No, not at all. Not at all. But it's a romp, right?
Yes.
And so that's one of the ways that I use it as a way of clearing my mind. It's a amuse-bouche.
Yes.
It's a sorbet.
So when did the Sorbet series start? When did
Yeah,
Orphan X
so these
start?
started coming out in 2017.
Okay.
This series, but
Yes.
there are other Sorbet series that I've got.
Of course.
But Hurwitz is just a great example of one of those.
So has he done 10 books since 2017?
More than that, because he's also written other characters rather than just Orphan X.
Yeah, wow.
But one,
That's pretty prolific.
it's 400 pages, and
but still.
yeah. I mean, so that's the first way that I read fiction, right?
Yeah,
to
that's
cleanse my
good.
palate. Okay,
That's good.
what's your second theme?
My second theme is the same thing actually. The books to escape. So I called it books to escape momentarily, brackets.
Yeah.
'Cause, but I love. I think it's the same thing. It's the your imagination is creating the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And these are books that are quite often ruined by movies. And I feel like if you watch the movie, then all of a sudden you've lost all the ability to paint.
Yes,
the
of course,
scene in
of
your
course,
head.
of course, right.
So for me, like I have very vivid memory of reading the Bourne Enigma for the first time.
Oh yes, this is Frederick Forsyth, isn't it?
No, Robert Ludlum.
Oh, Robert Ludlum.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So and then I had seen the movies, but the book is so markedly different, and it's set in a completely different time. Like the premise is the same, but the movie's almost like a complete.
Yeah, the books are Cold War, aren't they? The 70s?
Vietnam. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So
right.
around that era.
So anybody who's thinking Bourne Identity and thinking whoever that.
But
guy is,
I love those movies.
Yeah.
They're one of my set of my favourite movies. But also, so in some ways, I just said don't watch the movies before the books,
right?
But I love those movies, and I thought, I should read the books, but the books are very different.
But so just help me here, because isn't the Bourne Identity series now being written by somebody else?
Yeah, so
because there's a continuum series,
Ludlum
right?
only wrote the first 3 books in
Wow.
that series, and I can't remember how many they're up to now. They're still coming out.
Well, this is a bit like Reacher with
so
Lee
Eric,
Childs, right?
Yeah, Eric Luspeter or Eric Van Luspeter is now the author, but 1980, 1986, and 1990. So the first 3 books were kind of spread over a decade from Ludlum, but and ultimately those are the ones that kind of got turned into movies. But I just love that, and I should do some honourable mentions. Like Jack Reach is a bit like that, because I just love that.
Yeah. I know.
Like, you're in a different place in America. There's stuff going on. You can kind of create it all.
Well, here's we talked about this before offline. One of the things I love about the Reacher series is Lee Childs is a pseudonym, and the guy's actually English. But those books are written so well that they're so infused with American culture.
Yeah, that's
you think he must
right.
have lived his whole life there.
Yeah.
And now his brother's writing them, isn't he?
Yeah. So, is it his son?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, isn't it? So that escapism is, and that kind of, for me, it's the kind of moving into that thriller.
Yeah.
There's something going on, twists and turns, and I've just finished another great book where I just kind of felt immersed in the world, in that world of the book.
I totally love that. The way
and you keep
time
wanting to come
dilates,
back.
and you don't want it to end. Yeah.
And you keep kind of wanting to come back, and you keep getting shocked, and then you kind of have to go back to your real world after living in another world. It's like all of that stuff is just the joy of, one of the real joys of fiction in my.
Well, that's a great segue into my second book, right?
Yeah.
So the second way I read fiction is kind of between the Sorbet and the Kale,
right?
And there's something in between.
We're creating a new scale.
I'm ruining the
This
metaphor.
is great.
But I'm going with Mick Herron and the Slow Horses series. Now,
I love this book.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And the reason I've chosen this is there's a level of sophistication and engagement that goes beyond the books we've just talked about.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
These people are not superheroes. They're incredibly flawed characters.
Yeah.
This is a gritty world.
100%.
And the characters written are so good.
Yeah.
The amazing thing about this book is when he wrote the first one, Slow Horses, flopped. Like it was done by an independent publisher and it flopped. And it was only when it got picked up by somebody else that Mick Herron became the Mick Herron.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And so...
Yeah.
Yes, and this is one of those things where the Netflix series is good. I mean, how could it not be?
Yeah.
But the way that he writes Jackson Lamb is just.
But the reason why it's good is because
the books. That and Gary Oldman and Scott
of course.
Thomas. Right?
Yeah, but I guess the story is so powerful that they've translated that well. You know what I mean? So,
but if you read this stuff, you think about John le Carré, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yeah,
this is kind of the anti-world of that. It's very clever. There are political machinations. These people, are... And the other great thing, you talked about it before, one of the things that Herron does is he introduces you to characters, makes you love them and kills them off. Which you think about, like an Orphan X. Orphan X is one of the problems with the Orphan X series is he's a superhero and he always wins.
Well, Reacher.
Reacher,
it's the
right.
same. Reacher.
Yeah, like where's the kryptonite, right?
Where's Reacher? Yeah. I still to this day have no idea how Reacher is going to die because it appears that he's got no way of doing that.
But the
Maybe
point,
it is kryptonite.
but there's a bunch of authors that fit in this middle category for me.
Totally.
That fit in, and we talked about people like Chandler before.
Yeah.
I got introduced to Walter Mosley doing the show.
Yeah.
And they're thoughtful, engaging, smart books that aren't just palate cleansers.
Yeah.
But also, that aren't also, dominating my world.
Yeah.
So Mick Herron, the whole series is great. Start with Slow Horses.
I'm really looking forward to diving more into that, and I read that off your recommendation. And actually, I mean, when we were talking about books for today or ideas for the series, that was one we were going to jump on, wasn't it? Because we've both read it. But I mean, this is that kind of fiction. I love what you just said about the imperfection, and like looping back to the Thursday Murder Club. That's again really, really strong characters. Yeah, nothing's off the table. Yeah. Like it's not all the good. It's full of like talking about human flaws and mistakes and twists and turns.
You might have made this point in a very early episode. Like the only reason the Superman comic and story works is because of kryptonite. Like if you had a superhuman being that had no weakness, it would be really boring, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think someone wrote about that recently. I think Adam Grant might have said my favourite superhero is Superman because he's got flaws.
Yes.
It's not everything works. Yeah. It's not all toys.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So it's not Batman the billionaire with the toys.
Yes. Yeah.
So what's your next theme?
I kind of extending that, and I think, and it's probably not too dissimilar to what you say, but I do love these books, and I grabbed The Hunt for Red October,
right?
Because it's a way of learning. Like there's a layer of learning in there. Like I guess it's potentially it falls into that historical fiction thing. I mean, Hunt for Red October doesn't. Yes, I wouldn't put it into that category. But there's so many layers of learning and how things work, and there's those great stories around Tom Clancy, isn't there? Because when he started writing these books, he basically got raided. By the CIA.
Because he was an insurance salesman.
Yeah,
what's the first book called?
Hunt for Red October was his first book.
And it was so accurate.
Yes,
and
exactly.
They're like,
you can't know this.
Yeah,
stuff.
and he said, well, I just put two and two together.
To your point, at least he's not English. Because then he was probably Gomberger. Because he knows so much stuff. But I do love. I'm still a learner. It's an important thing for me. So when I'm, when there is a historical fiction book, I've just finished the Underground Railroad. So the learnings and that, there is a. I'm not saying I'm always looking for a serious element, but to your point, you can't always, you can't drop out of nonfiction and then read fiction loaded with too much stuff either. So,
well, that's again.
So your spectrum is really good.
Well, thank you for batting back to me about my spectrum, because the third piece of the spectrum, I think, is what people think we're going to talk about when we talk about fiction. So for me, the third part of the spectrum is the kind of fiction that changes your life. Yeah. Right. And so as an example of that, I've brought The Narrow Road to the Deep North by Richard Flanagan, which is the best thing I've read all year. Wow. And so, I mean, look, this book took 12 years to write. And it's an amazing story. So this book is about a young doctor and surgeon who's in the Australian Army, becomes a prisoner of war on the Burma Railroad. Okay. The railroad that the Japanese are building from Thailand to India so they can evade. And the way that the Bushido Code works for the Japanese Army was if you allow yourself to be captured, you're essentially subhuman. So their worldview is we don't have to treat the prisoners as humans at all. So they don't feed them. They don't treat them when they get injured. They beat them sadistically. It's just a horror story. Yeah. So anyway, he survives all of that. But having seen what humanity can do, of course, he becomes a hero back in Australia, but he's full of self-loathing. The thing that anchors the story together is this illicit love affair that he has with his uncle's wife. It's the love of his life. And so he gets more and more famous as he gets older, but actually he becomes more and more full of self-loathing.
Yeah.
It is a brilliant book. Turns out that Flanagan's dad was a prisoner of war on the Burma Railroad. There's a lot of autobiography in there. The book, it's that kind of fiction that sends chills down your spine.
Yeah.
Like, it's not an easy read.
Yeah.
But in terms of, we've talked before about the very best fiction does what social scientists dream of doing.
Yes.
Like it transports you to a different world. It enables you to see through other people's eyes. I love that fiction, but my God, that fiction's hard. You can't read that all the time. Yeah, like it's what I said about it's Kale, right?
Yeah.
You know, like it. You know,
you can't eat it all the time.
But the difference is though, I couldn't put that book down.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I read it this year precisely because the Netflix TV series was coming out.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, I want to make sure I've read the book before I watch the series.
Yeah.
I read the book, watched half an hour of the first series and turned it off.
Yeah, because you don't want to go there. Yeah.
Well, the book is so good.
Yeah.
And I have the pictures in my head of all the characters and where we're going.
Yeah, you don't want to...
And I don't want to repeat it.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
So that's the continuum of fiction for me. You know, Sorbet... I don't know, something in the middle. What is
We're going to have to come up with a scale here.
Japanese Teppenyaki, and then at the other end, you know, Kale and omega-3.
It's good for you, but you don't want to have it all the time.
And the thing is, how often do you read books that rock your world? Like, I mean, maybe the Underground Railroad.
Oh, the Underground Railroad is just like...
Yeah. And this was one of those books for me, and there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, no, totally.
And look, well, you know, if I had more time, I think I would try and read the short list of the Booker Prize every year.
Yeah.
Like, it's always a good idea to think about, you know, what great fiction, you know, is doing the rounds. And of course, it's decided by a committee and lots of books miss out. But it's not a bad place to start.
So in terms of, I mean, I'm just thinking of useful things to pick up here because, you know, like in terms of, we've got these big prizes and things like that. And you've read lots of them, and I think I admitted to you this week, I think The Underground Railroad is the first Pulitzer that I've ever read, which is, and I know I've got a list, but year to year, do these book prizes, are they markedly different books?
They can be.
Or do you see things...
Well, and they certainly are over 20-year period.
I can
They're very
imagine.
different.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, I mean, the Booker is a great example. Like, the Booker for a long time was really mainstream white-bread English authors.
Right, okay.
And then it went through a period of largely being what you might call post-colonial writers out of India, Australia, like
so
people that are part of the...
into that a bit more,
because once upon a time, until reasonably recently, the Booker was only for Commonwealth countries. Yeah, right. And then the Booker Man Prize, I think, got bought, and now it's everybody.
Right.
But so it was really good because it would point to, you know, great writers you've never heard of from Pakistan, for instance, on the short list.
Yeah. So the Booker Man's a global thing. And
it is now.
And what's the Pulitzer?
Well, the Pulitzer is also, it's largely American. It's fiction and non-fiction.
Right.
But of course, you've got the Nobel Prize in Literature if you really
well.
want it. And then there are all these other prizes, like, I can't remember what they're called, but there are great prizes for the best new author in detective fiction.
Right.
And whatever that prize
is. So
they
start to get into categories and things like that. Yeah. Yeah. I was actually talking to a former guest of the show, Alyssa Wiseman.
Yes. Oh, wow.
She released a new book last weekend, so we went to a book launch at the local library.
Right.
And she was telling me it's fascinating about, we kind of had this conversation about how's the new book going.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, it's really, really hard at the moment. She's well written, well known.
Yep.
Signed up with a publisher in the States.
Yep.
And she was telling us about how, like, when you launch a book, if you don't get reviews and you don't get she said something like 3, 4 or 5 star reviews immediately, then you just fall off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And
we know this, right? 95% of books sell fewer than 5,000 copies. Yeah. Like, more to the point, if you believe the Read New Zealand data, 500,000 adult New Zealanders didn't read a single book last year.
Yeah, I'd kind of believe that to be.
Hey, I just want to go back to. I'm not pushing I'm not pushing Flanagan's Narrow Road to the Deep North. I am really. You should read it. You should read it.
Yeah, and to be just a little thing, we'll put a list of all the books that we've mentioned.
But you should absolutely read it. Yeah. But for me, it's emblematic of a kind of literature. But just to go back to that book, I love this review. This is Thomas Keneally, who's also a brilliant Australian author.
Yeah.
He described this book as a grand examination of what it is to be a good man and a bad man in the one flesh.
Oh.
And that's so cool, right? You know, like that idea of this isn't black and white. You know, we're all shades of grey.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I love
and that's a depth that you get in fiction, isn't it? And we've lamented some of the the non-fiction genres, and we might pick up on that theme in the next.
Here's my
good point.
I know you've got other books to go, but here's my question for you, right? So you've written books, I've written books. Have you ever written any fiction?
No, and I have. It's not that I've pondered.
Yeah,
but man, that must be an exercise. Yeah. I just don't. Yeah, I feel like it's weird saying this out loud. I'm just going.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this is where my creativity isn't. That's not
hold
my
on.
domain.
Hold on to
I
that
don't
thought.
know, but
hold on to that thought.
Yeah.
You wrote a pretty good poem the other day.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Yeah. So hold on. You can write quite a technical, instrumental, professional book, and you can write poetry, but somehow fiction is.
Well, this is the thing. You know, maybe it's yet. Okay. Maybe the answer.
I like that.
You know,
okay.
maybe it's yet.
So what else is on your list?
Well, just to pick up on the books to share with others. I've read books that my daughters read. So she's a voracious reader. Like
right.
Mackenzie.
Well, she put us on to. Help me out here. The Rooftopers.
Yes, the Rooftopers. Yeah.
Which I loved.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved that book. It made me my heart sing.
So I've and my wife has started to read a lot of books that she's reading because she's now just turned 13. She's now moving into the young adult. You know, so there's some really great books in that genre and big series. You know,
yeah, good.
So she'll just smash her way through a series, but. She's 200 or 300 books a year.
Yeah,
like she's reading, and when she started reading, she reads like you. But when she started reading, I was like, and this was a few years ago. I looked at her and I went, "Are you actually, are you literally reading all those words?"
Oh,
and,
yeah. Totally
and I said, okay. So I grabbed a book, opened it up in the middle, skim read a page, and I said, "What's going on here?" And she went, blah 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 blah, 100% right. And I'm like, holy moly! So. Yeah. I've started to read in one book, the famous children's author Judith Kerr.
Yes.
Tiger Came to Tea is a very famous. Yeah. She wrote a book when Hitler stole Pink Rabbit, which is it's autobiographical,
right,
about her experience as a refugee during the war, as a Jewish. Escaping the Nazis.
Holy moly!
So she was in that world, and this book is a children's book about her experience as a child.
Yeah.
And Mackenzie read this book, and I was like,
holy moly,
that looks awesome.
Yeah.
Right, I'll read that too.
Yeah,
and there's a series of
and
books.
now we can have a chat about
not that exactly. Not that I wouldn't say it's the greatest book I've ever read, but I've read books.
But you're making a great point about Mackenzie's reading, right? Because that's about what a psychologist would call processing fluency. You know, when you pick up a book and you just read it so easily, like it's so fluent, right?
Yeah.
And one of the problems we had with Veblen, and I think, so you made a great confession, and I honour you for it, right? Where you said you didn't finish Veblen. I'm now going to say something on this podcast that I'm ashamed at. I've never finished War and Peace by Tolstoy.
Okay.
I've had 3 goes at it.
Right.
And there's a famous photo about 20 years ago of me burning it in a log box in a holiday home in Wanaka. Because I was like, it just drove me so insane. And I'm so sorry. And look, and people I love and respect tell me that Tolstoy is all the things I've just said about Flanagan. Right?
Yeah.
But somehow I just can't do it. I mix up the characters, the Russian names, whatever. I haven't been able to get through.
But that's okay.
That's okay. It is okay.
Yeah.
But that's the point about we need books that we can process easily, right? Still move us.
But also we need to engage. If you're reading something you don't engage with, then it's not a very pleasurable activity.
Have you read the book A Clockwork Orange?
No, I haven't.
Well, the only way I could read A Clockwork Orange is I literally tore the thing at the back that told you what all the words were. Because he invents his own language, and I literally had to have. A
dictionary.
The book with the dictionary.
Or glossary.
Glossary,
wow.
Right? Like literally, because he was using all these words that he'd made up, which is clever and works in the movie, but it's really, really hard because you'd be reading a sentence, you go, what does that mean? right. Yeah.
And then keep forgetting it.
Yeah, and then going back.
And probably with my reading habit of reading at night, it'd just be a disaster.
It'd be a disaster.
Yeah. So,
although doing it on a Kindle would be great because you could press on the word and it would tell you.
Maybe.
Right.
I don't know if they do that for because that's like a net search that you do on that. Right. So it's probably just normal words. Like I don't know if it works for his words. Recently bonded with my uncle over some books.
Great.
Same thing.
Yep.
Books to connect. I was around his house looking at the bookshelf. Bill, and he's got loads of single author books, but loads of books from each author. I was like, tell me more. Tell me more. And he put me on to Greene.
Oh, yes.
And he goes, Greene's my favourite author.
Oh, my
ever.
gosh. Yeah.
So I've just finished Our Man in Havana, which is just
unbelievable.
But the best thing about it is I went back the week after and sat with Bill and talked about the book.
Oh, wow.
And we bonded over the book. Yeah. And also it gave me insight into he's an author and I've got a series of books of his there and just his humour. Is
he Catholic?
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Because, you can't really understand Greene without understanding modern-day Catholicism.
Yeah, exactly. So that's and he's also grappled with Catholicism as well because, all of, growing Catholic schools, like my dad, all that kind of stuff. So but I guess the point is an absolute, there is something about talking about. Well, I mean, we started this talking about what we're reading. Yeah. So I love that bonding thing.
Yeah, but it's different talking about what we're reading. It's one thing for you and I to get together and go, you've got to read James Clear, Atomic Habits, right? We'll come right.
Yeah,
and it's quite another thing to say, have you read, and give me a novel that's changed your life.
Yeah, so this is if someone's read it.
Yeah.
And I mean, and this is where the likes of the Thursday Murder Club as big books, my wife and all her friends have all read The Seven Sisters.
Oh, yeah.
And that's another great series. And I was like, right, I've got to read it. I've got to dip in.
I've got to be inside that loop.
Yeah. Well, I just want to know what that's about. And I loved it. Yeah. The first book is amazing.
Well, you think about what people used to say about TV in America and New Zealand, right? When there were a small number of channels, we were consuming the same.
We were watching the same stuff.
And then we could talk about the same stuff.
Yeah.
And now, of course, with dispersion, that doesn't happen. But if we're reading the same books, somebody can say, I tell you what was great. We did Wuthering Heights at high school.
Okay.
And I was always interested in psychology, and I read Wuthering Heights, and there were people in my class saying it's a ghost story, which is the Kate Bush interpretation. Okay. Yeah. And I was reading it going, no, it's a narrative of madness. Right? Like, and it's like, it's great.
And here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Like, there's no ghosts.
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay.
But that is cool, eh? And
that's a good point, because I wonder if one of the things that gets beaten out of people is when you have to do books in year 12. As the teacher tells you, this is the correct interpretation. Like when you read this book, this is what the author meant. Well, the author loses control of the book the moment they let it go.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
You bring your world to their words and create your own interpretation.
And we've talked about this in the past, haven't we? We've talked about how books may have a time in your life where where you read them once and you're like, and you read them again, you're like, oh my God, I needed to hear that. Or
we've talked, I think we've talked, maybe not on the podcast, but that's Hemingway for me. Like when I was young, like everybody, I read Hemingway. I wanted to be in that world of Hemingway.
Yeah.
On subsequent trips to Florida, because he had a house there, we picked up some Hemingway and reread it, and it's awful.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't, it doesn't.
Well, here's another one. Our elderly neighbour, she loves Shakespeare. Yes. And every time I go and see her, pop in and say hello, and she's always reading. So I'm like, what are you reading? And she goes, I'm reading a book that's written by a female Shakespeare actress who, lead actor who's been in lots of Shakespeare. And she's rewritten or written the roles of the woman in Shakespeare's plays who are quite often marginalised, just like a feminist
reinterpretation of Shakespeare.
Yeah, but also new material to slot into these stories, and she's done it for multiple Shakespeare. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool stuff. But like for someone who's got a love, she's in her late 90s, so she's got a love long.
But I love that building on that world, right? Like we'll take that world as given, and now let's look at a different lens.
Yeah,
there's a brilliant book I read, which also kicked me around the head, like Richard Flanagan, called A Little Lie. Have you read A Little Lie?
No.
So it was an award-winning book about 5 years ago, but it's in two halves.
Oh.
And it's told by one character's point of view, which is kind of full of hope. and then they tell it from the other character's point of view, which is full of hate and desperation. And it's the kind of book that you read and it just stays with you.
Did they get it the right way around? Because that feels like a...
I'm not going to say more about that book.
Yeah. So here we go.
That was a really disturbing and amazing read.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, this is the thing. Fiction can hold those two worlds, can't it?
Yeah.
And we've reviewed.
So here's my point for you, which is really a question for me.
Right.
Given the tenor of this conversation and given how animated we're becoming, why don't we read more fiction?
Well, this is the thing. Okay, here's the straight up. Like I think myth. And we've talked a little bit about this in the past. The myth of why bother?
Yeah.
I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I want to use my time to learn something and keep learning something.
But you're assuming you can't learn from fiction by saying...
Yes, exactly.
I mean, human beings are storytelling.
I'm just saying that's a myth. I don't believe it. But that's the common myth, isn't it? Like the common narrative is fiction's for escapism. Fiction's, and I think there's a perspective that fiction is... romantic novels of young couples meeting, and
but that's why
all that.
But that's why I brought my spectrum, right? Yes, I do have some of that escapism.
Yes,
Orphan X, and I love it. It's, right, but mostly when I read fiction, it's not escapism.
Yeah,
there's a little bit there of pressing me and pushing me. And
but there's so many genres. Like this is the point. Like you can't just label fiction with those broad narratives. You can't. It's wrong.
And that's another great point. We've talked about themes and now we've brought it to genres. I've always been suspicious of people who say, I never read science fiction. I never read, I hate that expression, chick lit, right? Romantic comedies. Yeah. There's good literature and there's good fiction in every category. Every category. That's true. And, don't think, I don't read horror books or I don't read fantasy novels because there'll be some great ones.
Yeah, exactly. So I, 100% you learn out of fiction. Yeah. I think the deeper story for me in fiction is the moments where you're creating worlds in your head. Yeah. Like, that's an experience like no other, isn't it? Like you tell me
it's immersive.
That's right. Tell me an activity that allows you to do that.
You can't. Yeah.
There isn't.
Yeah. It's entirely immersive.
Well, okay, maybe if you're a creative, maybe you're an artist or whatever, you get into that flow, but that is a flow you don't have to do yourself.
Yeah, that's right. And imagine welcoming other people into that world and them getting in that flow.
Yes. Exactly.
Think about those books you read where there's a series and they stop and the author dies.
Yeah.
Right. And there's no more books in that series, and those characters are gone from your life forever.
Yeah.
And what I do sometimes when I'm loving, I don't know why I do this. I don't know what to do myself, but I'll be reading a novel I really like, and I'll be racing like Mackenzie, and then I'll notice there's only 80 pages to go, and I'm like, I'm going to be done in an hour.
Yeah.
And then.
I wonder what's going to happen. Yeah.
But I like that idea of series. I mean, there's a number of authors for whom this is the case, but what often happens to me is you'll introduce me to a book, or someone will introduce me to a book, like say Mick Herron. I'll read the first one, I might get the second one, and then I'll buy all 10 of them. Yeah, it's like that's it. I'm in.
I'm also parking some stuff because I'm like I think it's good to sample series. So like diving into the another one I've sorry, we're adding to the list here, but author Harlan Coben, The Match was the first book I've read of his series, and that was just a friend who said, I said, what are you reading? He said, I'm reading this book. It's freaking great. And I was like, okay. I love it. So I've read one. I would go back to that series. So I don't know. I'm very mindful of the don't park something till later thing, but I do like this idea of I want to chip away at the rest of the reaches. I kind of like that. Yeah. But it's nice to know that if I had a bit more long going on a long holiday or something, you could go in 2 or 3 books in the series, bang, 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 bang.
So one last question, right? So we got to wrap this up. But one last question: do you ever read short stories?
I have read my first one. I read James Joyce recently.
Which one did you read?
No.
The Dubliners?
No. Carry on.
Yeah.
I'll think.
So James Joyce doesn't usually write very short stories.
No, but it's.
Is this a Dave McWilliams inspiration?
It was. He was talking about. He was talking about this book.
Yeah.
It's Yeah. We need to insert. It's
coming.
The Dead.
Oh right. Okay. I don't know it.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I remember, opening it because I read. We were talking about waving books around today. You've been waving books. Most of my fiction's on Kindle.
Yeah,
and because
so the point I was going to make, we talked before about you've dabbled in poetry, you've dabbled in non-fiction. Why don't you have a go at fiction? I read a lot of fiction, but I don't tend to read short stories.
Yeah, I think in short stories, it was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun because you know, like to your point of you kind of opened the book. And there was only 90-something pages to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
And think if you think in many regards, that's a greater art than writing a novel. If somebody can build a world, immerse you in a world, and get you to fall in love with characters in 30 or 40 pages, holy shit! I want that superpower, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly the experience of the short story, wasn't it? Because it's just a sliver.
Yeah.
And again, to get the creative mind going, you start building stuff around this thing. I don't know whether it's true or not. All I've got is a sliver that he wrote down.
Yeah.
But
I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth it.
So how do we wrap this up? I mean, I think what we've done really well here is
recap your spectrum.
Well, I use fiction in 3 different ways. I use it as a palate cleanser, kind of a sorbet.
Yep.
While I'm jumping between different things, I'll often, what I didn't say is, if we're reading a difficult book, like a Veblen, I'll often go and buy a book that I really want to read, either a Herron or something like a Hurwitz, and have that, like you can read that after you finish Veblen, but you're not getting it until you finish Veblen.
You can't.
Right, it's the dessert
how
after
can you have your pudding if you don't eat your meat?
Oh my God, that's a Pink Floyd reference if anybody listening to this is born in this century.
Yes.
So sorbet, love it, can't have too much of it. I really like that middle piece, the kind of whatever we're going to call that, Teppenyaki, tasty and healthy. The Mick Herrons, that kind of thing. But the stuff that really rocks my world is the, whatever we're calling that, Kale and omega-3 stuff. Yeah. The Richard Flanagans, A Little Lie.
Yeah, so that's
my spectrum.
But the point is historical fiction.
I think, you talked about themes. I mean, I think if we reach for a conclusion, it's just keep reading fiction. Right?
Totally.
Whatever rocks your world.
I mean, we're just coming up with themes.
You're looking for patterns in your reading, and I was trying to work out if we're going to talk about fiction, how do I read fiction? And why do I read fiction?
Yeah, so I've got books to share with others, books to escape. Yeah, I mean, probably in my 2 piles.
Well, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that.
So we've got kind of five things there, but we will put a We're going to attempt to compile a list once we've finished this.
Hey, and also, I mean, if you put your favorite, we're always on the lookout for great. In this episode, great fiction. So if you've read something recently that's rocked your world, let us know what it is.
Yes. I just want to finish with a shout out. To my man Scott Nelson.
Yes.
Who has he's a friend of mine from uni.
Right.
Out of the blue, when we first started podcasting, he said, I'm loving your podcast.
Wow.
I was like,
hey Scott.
Okay.
Shout out to Scott.
But the reason why is he goes, you've given me things to read. I've started reading again.
Oh wow.
Which is really cool.
That is the point.
Yes. So I just wanted to give a big shout out and we love that feedback and
we totally do.
It's very, very cool. But we're gonna get you guys a list. Yeah. You don't have to read them all. Yeah. Like there's the other thing. Please don't try and read all these at once.
Also, hey,
go dip in.
Just one little sad note to end on. Right. This is episode 59.
Yeah.
Must mean there's only one more to go in this series.
Well, one and maybe a little wrap for this season. But we're gonna take on a big book next time, so we'll hold that one, and we have given lots of clues as to what it is because we keep talking about it.
All right,
so I'll kind of wrap it up.
I'll see you then.
Okay,
right, take care.
Magic.
Bye.